I'm going to show you three short videos in a minute. Well, one of them's not that short, but the whole thing lasts about 19 minutes. And it's Ben Habib from 2021 to signing the pledge at the weekend, and now to his walking away from reform. And I think what these little clips will show is that Ben is a man of the highest integrity. And when we look at the way he's been treated, I saw the interview with Alex Phillips, and, fair play to Alex Phillips. She, came out and said that she thought Tommy was wonderful, and she interviewed Tommy, and that's all good. She's backslidden a bit because she really dug Ben out. She didn't really, in the interview, she didn't listen to what he said. She just kind of went on a full frontal assault, and which I thought was a little bit unfortunate to say the least. However, it is what it is. Have a look at these videos, see what you think, and let me know in the comments if you think that we're looking at the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. And I know that sounds crazy. Ben doesn't have a party at the minute. But I'll tell you what Ben does have. He has integrity, he has honesty, he has drive, and he cares deeply about this great United Kingdom. So I think he is potentially a future Prime Minister. And let's hope he's the Prime Minister in 5 years' time, as crazy as that sounds. And if you want to back Ben, and if you want to back a non-party political stance, and you want to get involved in politics without joining a party, can I suggest that you go to our website, read the pledge, thepledge.org.uk, and if you like what you see, you sign up, you share it with 10 of your friends, and we get the pledge up to about 4 or 5 million people by the time of the next election. And then the people really have a chance in having their say. Because I'll be honest with you, I don't trust the Tories. I definitely don't trust Labour, Lib Dems, SNP, or any of that crowd. I don't trust the Tories. And sadly, I don't trust the leadership of Reform. There needs to be an alternative. I think the way to build it is with people like Ben on the outside, UKIP was on the outside, other independent voices, Andrew Bridgen, people like that, and the pledge sitting above it all with that amazing ideology. And again, if you want to know what's in it, go to thepledge.org.uk and let me know your thoughts. But also, if you like it and you sign it, share it with 10 other people that you think will sign it as well. See you soon.
We'll continue to press Ben for answers because I would say that he's a wise man, and a man that we need to listen to, and a man that I wish that our Conservative government would listen to. So Ben Habib for Prime Minister next time around. and this time around, Ben, I just hope that if it's Nigel Farage's new party that you're going to join and you're going to go forward and be elected with, I just hope that they don't back off this time because, people want to...
I can tell you one thing, John, whatever happens, I'm not backing off. And we've got, I can't disclose anything right now, but we've got moves afoot which are going to up the ante for Boris Johnson on Northern Ireland. And, we will go on fighting this battle.
That's great. That's an exclusive. You got it here first. Thanks very much for that, Ben.
Well, that was a very kind introduction. And can I just say, before I say anything, can I just say that every one of you are fighting the fight to save the United Kingdom. It's obviously there are some people who have the privilege of a greater voice, and Andrew's one of them, and I may be one of them, but we're all fighting the same fight. And what's tragic, in a sense, is that the pledge is even needed, because if you read down the list, all of it should be basic British common sense, shouldn't it? If you are a British citizen and you believe in the United Kingdom, every single one of these things should automatically follow. Certainly when I was brought up, I've got my old school tie on, when I was brought up, I was taught to be proud of this country. I was taught that our forefathers were phenomenal. The agrarian revolution started here, the industrial revolution. We were at the forefront of scientific development. We had the best common law. We had the best empire, and I'm very proud of the empire. My father was a beneficiary of the empire, having been born in what was then British India, became Pakistan. So I see the United Kingdom from that historical context, a context where Christianity was the blanket which wrapped us but protected the United Kingdom's values and culture, and through which our fantastic democracy, our judicial system, our common law, our thirst for our hunger for knowledge, our preparedness for diversity of thought, all of that came out of those roots. And what we've developed over the last, I think particularly last 27 years since Tony Blair came into office, is a preparedness to put individuals above and beyond and to the detriment of the country, to the majority. We say we live in a liberal democracy. Actually, we have set aside democracy in the pursuit of liberalism. And when you champion the individual at the expense of the majority, what you end up with is the kind of shutting down of free speech that Jeff was referring to and David before him. Because in order for the majority, in order for the nation to give up that which is best for the nation, you can't have free speech. Can you see that? Because the majority would speak up against it. And so when you head for this extreme form of liberalism that we've got, you then you have the results and the symptoms against which the pledge is kicking back. And as I say, it is tragic that we have to state the obvious, but we have to state it. We have to push back, we have to yank against liberalism, the extreme form of liberalism that we've got, that's led to global governance, the inability to recognise that British citizens should come, first and foremost in our elected politicians' minds, and that they should be making policies for the national interest, for the majority interest. We need to yank against that liberalism and re-establish what it means to be democratic. And you can only have a democracy, if you understand the nation state. Democracy is not some kind of fluid thing that you can globally apply. It requires a nation state through which to operate. You can't have a democracy for the United Kingdom if you don't understand what is the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. And thank you very much for identifying the Northern Irish issue, because it is absolutely vital. If you have a political class that is prepared to hand over 1.8 million people that are not in a British protectorate, not in a former colony, but a part of the United Kingdom, we are done. We are done as a country. And that's precisely what they've done. They see it as a bureaucratic, technocratic thing. But anyone who doesn't pick up on the massive damage done to the fabric of this country, and indeed who we are as a people, by the Northern Ireland Protocol, is completely underestimating the damage that that protocol has done to this country. And as you said, Jeff, next week, or in a couple of weeks' time, they're going to be voting on the protocol in Stormont. And effectively what Stormont is going to be asked to vote for is for the elected politicians of Northern Ireland to give up their right to represent their people. That is precisely what is at stake. The Northern Irish Assembly is going to vote, and they will vote in favour, to give up their obligation to represent their people. I don't think any politician has the right to do that. So we are where we are. Democracy has been undermined by this incessant march towards liberalism. I'm very, very grateful to those who drafted the pledge, who had the courage to draft what is bleedingly obvious to most people, but thank you very much for doing it. The obvious needs to be stated. I'm very, very grateful to all of you coming here today and for all the fight that you put up. And what I pledge to you is that I don't care which political party is in power. I don't care which political party is carrying the baton from time to time, ostensibly for these values. I will fight for these values for the rest of my life, inside a political party, or if necessary, outside it, and if absolutely necessary, in my own political party, whatever it takes to get these pledges done. Thank you very much, Lou. Good morning, folks. I got into politics to get Brexit done. I could see in 2019 that Theresa May simply wasn't going to deliver it, so I threw my hat in with the Brexit Party. And I stayed in politics because Boris Johnson, contrary to all his promises, didn't get Brexit done. The two deals he signed with the European Union left Northern Ireland behind, over 1 million British citizens thrown under a bus by his withdrawal agreement. And it also hitched the rest of the United Kingdom to the regulatory hip of the European Union, committing to staying in line with them on state aid, competition, employment and environmental law. Yes, he committed us to the net zero target in international treaty with the EU. In that same agreement, he also committed us to staying in the European Convention of Human Rights, paying money into the European Defence Fund for the development of European military hardware and software, and a whole lot else besides. By no measure could that set of agreements be regarded as getting Brexit done. And this is a fundamental ideological difference between Reform UK and Nigel Farage on one side and me on the other. Nigel says that Brexit was done. It's just that we didn't take advantage of it. We didn't move far away enough from the EU in order to reveal the benefits of Brexit. But I completely disagree. I can't make any case for Nigel's position, and it's not just semantics. I can't make any case for it because Northern Ireland's been left behind. What kind of country are we if we don't fight for British citizens? We are knout if we're not prepared to stand for that fight. I also have concerns about Reform UK, then the Brexit Party, because of the structure of the party. As people will probably know by now, Reform UK Limited is a limited company. The political party is a limited company. It has 15 shares, 9 of which are owned by Nigel. And it was Nigel's control of that party, 60% control of that party, that enabled him to stand down 317 candidates in 2019 against Boris Johnson without any consultation of any of us in the party. And he may have had good reasons for doing so in his mind to prevent Jeremy Corbyn getting into office. But actually what we did was deliver Boris Johnson into office and deliver into being the withdrawal agreement, which has thrown Northern Ireland under a bus. So I have always had a problem with the structure of Reform UK, and I've always had a problem with the view that Brexit's done. These are fundamental differences. So when Richard Tice approached me in late 2022 to join Reform UK, which had then changed its name from Brexit Party to Reform UK, I said I would only do so if Nigel gave up his shares in the party, democratised it, and that we had a consensual way of running the party. After some discussion, Richard came back to me and said Nigel had refused to sell down his shares into some kind of broader ownership, and further discussions took place, and eventually I agreed to join the party on the strength of a letter that Richard as leader wrote to me saying that the party would be run on a consensual basis, that there'd be no deals done with the Tories, that we would fight for Brexit, that Brexit hadn't been done, and that we would fight for Northern Ireland. And so I joined Reform UK, and we had a great time. We went from 6% in the polls in March 2023 to 16% in the polls just before the general election. Richard and I actually led a very successful movement. We created a very successful, broad movement across the country. And then Nigel reappointed himself leader of the party on the 3rd of June. And I knew at that point, frankly, and my inner circle could easily testify to this, that I was extremely concerned when Nigel came back, because I had fundamental differences with Nigel on the issue of Brexit, fundamental issues with the way the party was owned and operated. And so, again, privately, I wrote to Richard and to Nigel, I think, in June, just at the beginning of the election, saying, look, when the election's done, we've got to democratise the party. This cannot go on. And I made a similar call towards the tail end of the general election. And to his credit, Nigel, on the 5th of July, declared that they would democratise the party. And on the 22nd of August, Zia Youssef, the new chairman, went on GB News and declared that he had the finest legal minds working, I think he said, day and night on producing a fantastic constitution. But when that constitution turned up on, I think, the 18th of September, I don't know how I remember these dates, but I do. When that constitution turned up on the 18th of September, I realised it was a document that I had looked at a year and a half before and rejected. It simply didn't really work. There'd been a few tweaks made, but it doesn't work. And it absolutely did not have the finest legal minds on it at all. I would question whether it had any legal minds looking at it. At about the same time, Nigel also declared in a little piece to camera that he did that he would convert Reform UK Limited from a company limited by shares to a company limited by guarantee, and that it would be opened up to the so-called members to actually become genuine members because they would collectively own the party. Well, here we are at the end of November, and actually that conversion hasn't taken place. By the way, my lawyer tells me that that conversion cannot take place. You can't convert a company limited by shares to one limited by guarantee. You have to set up a new company. But no new company has been set up. Certainly no new applications have been made to the Electoral Commission, and even the slightly poor document that passes for a constitution has not been put to the Electoral Commission for its approval. So as far as I can see, no tangible steps have been taken to deliver what Nigel and Zia promised they would do, which is adopt this constitution and convert the party into one being owned, genuinely owned by its members. A few other ideological issues have developed between Nigel and Reform on one side and me on the other. And they're these. In an interview, Nigel said that he wasn't against the rapid demographic change in the United Kingdom. It was the cultural aspect of the United Kingdom, the cultural integrity of the United Kingdom that concerned him. Well, for me, the rapid demographic change in the UK is the other side of the same coin of the difficulties we're facing culturally. I don't see how you can separate them. Again, you might see this as semantics. I see it as quite a fundamental point. In the same interview, Nigel said that he was not in favour of mass deportations. Well, I'm firmly in favour of mass deportations. Anyone in this country who is here illegally must be detained and deported. Again, this is not semantics. I think Nigel in a subsequent interview said that there are problems, logistical problems in detaining and deporting so many people. I think there's over 1 million people in the United Kingdom illegally. But I concede that point readily. Of course, there are logistical issues, but that doesn't mean you don't do it. You begin doing it and you keep doing it until it's done, even if it takes a long time. That is the path on which the United Kingdom must set itself. And then I had a particular issue, I think, with Richard Tice saying that he described the gathering on the 20th of September in Whitehall in Parliament Square as that lot, eschewing, I think, the support of our movement, people, valid British citizens who no doubt voted Reform UK. He regarded them as unpalatable, and I imagine in an attempt to sanitize Reform UK, he was prepared to, effectively throw them under a bus. And I have an issue with that. I think we've got to be true to what we believe in. We've got to say it the way it is. This country has had enough of political expediency. We need people to tell it as it is. It is not about political expediency. It is about doing the right thing. And I also have an issue with the way Reform seems obsessed with recruiting Tories. Nigel put out a letter a few weeks ago saying the 1,300 Tory councillors who are coming up for election in May, don't take your chances with the Conservative Party, join Reform UK. And I think there have been a few more defections from the Tory party to Reform, and all of these are trumpeted. But it's our people that should be trumpeted. It's the movement that we created that should be trumpeted, not the people joining from the Tory party who are part of a party that delivered the country into the peril in which we now find ourselves. So I can't understand this obsession with recruiting Tories. Sure, there are some good Tories that are worth recruiting. Suella Braverman, for example. But why would you want to open the party up wholesale to defections from the Conservative Party? And it's also perhaps a slightly quaint approach I have, but I think the leadership of Reform is obliged to the movement it created. I think it is absolutely vital that we understand the movement owes us nothing. We owe the movement. And if we stand for the constitutional sovereign democratic unit that is the United Kingdom, then we must be a democracy ourselves. We can't say we trust the people of the UK to run the UK, but we don't trust the people of the UK to direct the leadership of Reform UK. That just doesn't wash. It's ideologically, fundamentally inconsistent. And the final issue I have, it's a personal issue, so forgive me, is that I discovered over the last few days that actually HQ at Reform has forbidden the new branches they've set up from having me speak to them. I don't know why, because at every meeting that I've been to, I have done nothing other than bang the drum of our message and bang the drum of the party. But it seems these criticisms that I have, ideological as well as constitutional criticisms I have of the party, are an affront to them. So they have shut me down from speaking to the very people whom I galvanised into a movement alongside Richard and others, whom I galvanised into a movement. And I find that, frankly, unacceptable. And I would say I'm resigning as a member of Reform. I can't resign as a member of Reform because I'm not a member. No one's a member. The only members are Richard and Nigel. But I think that their prohibition on my speaking, their prohibition on my free speech, their reluctance to democratise, their ideological differences with me now leaves me no option but to say I'm not affiliated with Reform, I'm afraid. I am ideologically separate from Reform. They're not treading the path that I think needs to be trodden, and I fear for their fascination with recruiting Tories, and I fear for their reluctance to democratise and really trust the movement that we created. And so very sadly, I am no longer a part of the movement. I'm a part of the movement. I'm no longer part of Reform UK, whatever that means, because as I say, you can't actually be a member. Thank you for listening, and I'm sorry to deliver what I suspect might be bad news to some of you. Thank you.
Well, let me know what you thought. I really do think that we're looking at the next Prime Minister. No party, no organisation, no structure. But when you look at what that man says and how he says it, and if you meet him, you see a politician with genuine integrity, despite what Mr. Farage has said, despite people trying to rip him to shreds. And I'm guessing that they'll try and push him to one side a little bit. The mainstream media, the mainstream alternative media, the GB Newses and the Talk TVs, just wait and see. But the reality is that that man with the right backing and the right people around him can lead this country. And we just need to hope and pray that he gets the right people around him, he gets to the right place at the right time, and a bit of good fortune shines upon him. Because I don't want the charlatans anymore. I don't want the pretenders. I don't want the fakes. I don't want the cheesy smiles and the cut glass accents. I want a real person. And Ben's a real person. Ben's one of us. So get behind Ben. Support him. And if you could do me a massive favour, like and subscribe to the channel. If you want to support us, feel free. I'll put the links down below. You can show your support any way that you can. Would be greatly appreciated. And I'll see all you guys next time we do a video. But let's get behind Ben Habib and let's make Great Britain great again. And also, don't forget, signthepledge.org.uk. We need to get that up to millions. If we get up to millions, we will change the country and we'll change it for the better. See you soon.